Waking up in the morning and setting my table is one of my favorite activities. I love taking out my paints. I love blowing out my brushes. And I like filling up my water ready for painting. Let's start day 2 with some color mixing. The first color that we're going to be mixing is mulberry. You guys know how to do this, which is 2 parts of red with 1 part of blue. You might have to shift around the proportions a bit to make sure you get the exact color. Don't worry if you're using a different shade of blue than what I am using. You will just end up with a different shade of color, which is still fine. Our painting is filled with florals, which means that they can be of any shade of reds and oranges. So it's all about just mixing around some fun colors for our painting to give it more variety. The next color we're mixing is orange. For orange, take 2 parts of yellow and 1 part of red. The more yellow you add, the more lighter orange you will get. So keep that in mind when you mix this combination. The next lovely color that we are going to be adding to our combination is apple green. For apple green, take 2 parts of yellow and 1 part of blue. Mix the color to get a very lovely shade of light green. Finally, we are going to be mixing indigo. For indigo, take 1 part of red and over 2 to 3 parts of blue. So we want a lot of blue color and just a little bit of red. This will give you a deep indigo color. It may not be exactly indigo, but just a very, very dark purple color, which has more of a bluish shade. And in my case, it does turn out to be indigo. And that is exactly what we are going to be working with for our painting. If you end up with a mix like this, just add more blue to deepen that indigo shade. I have mixed a generous quantity of all these colors for us to use in our painting today. So let's take out our A5 sheet and get started. Ready for day 2? Day 2, we are going to play around with placement. The first thing we're going to do is paint a very prominent main flower. This is going to be the center of our piece and it's going to be more towards the bottom right corner. So I'm starting off with that indigo blue color and I'm doing gentle lines around in a circle. These thin lines are going to be the center of our flower. The size of the circle is about 1 centimeter. This is very useful to keep in mind to make sure that you end up with a very nice big flower. If you do your center very small, you'll end up with a very small flower. So make sure that your brush is really brimming with water to the point that it's actually dripping. And that is what we're going to paint around our circle. This is going to give it a beautiful effect as we go into painting our flowers. Now, using clear water, I'm dragging the paint from the center to create petals. As you can see, when I use my brush to drag the paint through those bubbles, the orange blooms into the paper and it becomes part of the flowers. It becomes part of the petals. I love the effect that it creates. It's so easy, it's so simple, and it just looks really interesting. Now you want to work very quickly when you're painting the flowers to avoid it from drying out. So work quickly and add in flowers one at a time. What is so great is that I'm just using the color from the center and pulling it for each petal. Now let's allow this to dry, and meanwhile we can go ahead and add some more flowers. Now for the next set of flowers, I am using the orange that we painted, and I'm just going to be doing some curved shapes. This is going to be a half flower. So notice how I am not painting all around in a circle. I just painted petals along half. I'm gonna add a full flower with my orange. In this case, I didn't add a center circle, so it's gonna be a little bit more tricky to plan out where each of my petals go, but I'm gonna manage by just imagining that there is a center circle. You can see how I keep bringing in new paint as I go along. Let's add another half flower. Half flowers are very simple to do. Just paint 2 to 3 petals along either side of a central petal in the shape of a semicircle. Now we can start by painting some smaller flowers. I'm using the mulberry paint or mulberry pigment to paint some random petals. Now these are much more smaller in size, and I'm gonna vary it by using some clear water to paint petals. So notice what I just did. I used mulberry to paint 2 petals, and then I used clear water to paint 2 other petals. Now, using the already existing color on my paper, I'm adding more petals. Now, there is no specific way I'm adding this. I'm just adding petals everywhere. In the next step, we will make it a little bit more clear. But for now, just add different petals everywhere. It doesn't have to be attached to a center. Just play around with adding lots of petals. Remember to switch around your paintbrush, adding in clear water as well as saturated paint. One thing I'm also doing is trying to build it up. So the bottom area, or the area that is closer to my already existing flowers, are going to be much more concentrated in small flowers, which means that I'm going to add a lot of small flowers in this area. And as I move away, I'm going to make them lesser and smaller in size. So notice right now I'm painting the bottom, the area that is closest to the existing flowers, just adding big flowers, adding quite a lot of them and really filling up that area. And you can see as you move away, I've just added smaller flowers, and that is going to create a very interesting proportion in the painting. Once you're happy with adding the flowers, let's add some greens and bring them together. So using our green, I am adding the center circle for the petals. So wherever I can, I'm just bringing together the petals with the green. Since the paint is still wet, even the slight touch of the green on the petal lets it bleed through, giving it a beautiful blend. For single petals, I just draw a stem to connect them to an imaginary central line. So that way I'm just connecting the petals one at a time, connecting the flowers together to create a stem of flowers. Now let's bring together our orange flowers as well at this point. I'm using the detailer brush to connect the half flowers all together, connecting it to the main big flower. Also adding lines to the center of the orange. You can see how this makes it look very interesting with the orange base and the indigo center. Let's do a close-up of the big main flower, and let's add some lines, outlines to the flower to bring it more emphasis. Like we did before in the previous painting, I'm just adding broken lines for the outline. Just making sure that I get some areas but not completely filling up the space. The more loose you can make these lines, the better it looks. Now let's add some leaves. I've mixed a lot of water to my indigo mix and mixed them together to get a very translucent layer. So now with this, I'm adding leaves throughout the painting. Now in this painting, if you have a look, you'll notice that the bottom right corner of the sheet is very full. It is the center focus, leaving a lot of white negative space towards the left side. We're trying to continue with that and use it when we are painting our leaves as well. So making sure that we add leaves just along the bottom right corner. In this case, notice how I'm doing the leaves. Unlike what we did before, I'm adding leaves in 4 different directions, starting from the same spot. This gives a lot of volume to the leaf set. And there you go. This is day 2. Now that you've completed day 2 of the challenge, I wanted to also remind you that my watercolor beginner friendly floral course, it's my signature course that is 6 weeks long, is available right now for you at a discount rate. This is your chance to enroll using the coupon code as mentioned in the email. If you haven't received the email, do DM me on Instagram to receive it. Hope to see you tomorrow at day 3.